The time is now 6:30 and I will declare the meeting open. I advise the public that this meeting is being webcast and members of the gallery may have their voice and image captured. By attending, you consent to being captured, recorded and webcast. Any statements made by individual persons during the course of this meeting are the statements of those individuals and not of council. You should refrain from making any defamatory remarks or making comments about another individual without their consent. Council accepts no liability for any statements made by individuals during the course of the meeting. In the event of an emergency or the fire alarm sounding, please remain calm and wait for instructions from the General Manager and Council officers. If we need to evacuate the building, Council's emergency muster point is in the lower car park. In the event of a medical emergency, please alert Council staff for assistance. Council acknowledges the Wanneroo people as the traditional custodians of this land we are meeting on today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and future. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. We also acknowledge the Awabakal people to the east and the Darkinjung people to the south and other Aboriginal peoples who now live within the Cessnock local government area. I would now like to invite forward Pastor Wayne Kembrey from Cessnock City Church to lead us in prayer today. Please come forward, Pastor Kembrey. And while Pastor Kembrey's coming forward, before we begin tonight's prayer, I'd like to start by honouring Cessnock local Lance Corporal Jack Fitzgibbon, who sadly passed away earlier this month while completing a military training exercise. The Fitzgibbon family has made a significant contribution to the Hunter region over many generations. Indeed, Jack was embarking on a similar selfless path through his service with the Australian Defence Force. Both of Jack's parents, Joel and Di, have previously served as Cessnock councillors. It's incredibly saddening to lose someone so young. His dedication, courage and sense of duty to serve are a shining example to us all. My deepest sympathies are with Jack's family, including his partner Cass, his parents Joel and Di, his sisters and friends. The community came together in large numbers to pay respects and honour Jack's life. And I would like to acknowledge and personally thank all the council staff who went above and beyond in supporting and coordinating traffic and parking arrangements for Lance Corporal Fitzgibbon's funeral. Lance Corporal Fitzgibbon will forever be remembered and as a cherished son of Cessnock and a beloved member of our community. And before we start the prayer, if we could all please now stand for a minute's silence in his honour. Councillors could please remain standing for Pastor Kembrey to now lead us in prayer.
Yes, a pleasure to be here tonight with Pastor Mayor Jay, the council and the gallery. It's a great thing to come and believe that our God is a good God, wants to bless us, give us wisdom and share in the blessings over the church, over the council. Heavenly Father, we pray in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ that your grace, your wisdom, your mercy would be upon the church, the gallery tonight, Lord, the council. Lord, I pray they would be led by the Spirit of God and their decisions would be according to your will, we pray. We ask, Lord, that you would direct their work and influence and their decisions to advance in the prosperity and advancement of our city and the safety of welfare of the city, so that peace and happiness and truth and justice and sound development may be established among us. Guide their speaking, listening to be considerate and generous to each other, in all talking and thinking, planning decisions to give them courage to say what they need to say and humility to accept the decisions which will be they don't agree with, and that, Father, there will be the right decisions made tonight We pray through our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Kembrey. There's no apologies. Are there any requests for leave of absence? No. Confirmation of the previous minutes. Moved Councillor Hill, seconded Councillor Sander. No debate. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Disclosures of interest. I will disclose in relation to report PE2 2024 development application 2021 or DA8/2021/22318/1 that I'll declare a non-pecuniary less than significant conflict for the reason that I've been made aware that I'm an associate of someone who works for the applicant. I choose to remain in the chamber and participate in discussion and voting as this conflict has not influenced me in carrying out my public duty because this has no impact on them financially. Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Report PE2 of 2024, report titled DA8/2021/22318/1. I, James Hawkins, declare the following interest a non-pecuniary interest less than significant conflict for the reasons that I've been made aware that I'm an associate of someone who works for the applicant. I choose to remain in the chamber and participate in discussion and voting as the conflict has not influenced me in carrying out my public duty because this application has no financial impact on them or me. Thank you.
And no other disclosure of interest. We'll now move to petitions. No petitions. Public address. So we have speaking tonight on report PE2 2024. We have Nathan Smith speaking for the recommendation. So, Mr. Smith, please come forward. And you'll have 3 minutes to address council.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors and council staff. Appreciate the time to be able to speak. My name is Nathan Smith. I've resided at 707 Lovedale Road for over 20 years with my wife and family. We moved out of town with the dream of living peacefully on a small acreage in Lovedale, and it was peaceful under the previous owner of the neighbouring business. The business has significantly expanded on multiple occasions into a large operation. It is now far from the quaint boutique operation that it was under the previous owner. The business is now, it's extremely busy, especially on weekends at all hours. It is noteworthy that in 2014, Council Planner Rod Sandell, Senior Planner, opposed any further development at 701, stating it would be detrimental to the adjoining rural residential premises. This is now the reality. As presented at the November meeting, it's obvious we are significantly impacted by the business and have been for a considerable number of years. So skip in disposal trucks at 4:30 a.m, waking the family twice a week, constant delivery of vehicles all hours at the rear of the business and the sheds behind the main house, bins overflowing, leaving the rubbish on the ground, ending up in our yard from birds and unsightly. Regular late night events, loud noise and lighting from patrons and staff, late night functions where police have attended due to noise complaints by multiple neighbours, regular member event car clubs attracting additional large numbers, staff arriving before 7 a.m. and parking directly on boundary fence close to our bedrooms, flood and car lights blaring into our home daily, car parks randomly up our fence line, hence congestion and very unsafe. Ourselves and visitors to our home experiencing near misses when entering and exiting our driveway due to congestion at neighbouring entrance on Lovedale Road. Allowing customers to freely roam around the grounds of the business, meaning people are often in direct line of sight of bathrooms, pool areas, etc. Total invasion of our privacy. Helicopters landing and taking off at the business on weekends for breakfast. allowing constant use of the back car park, which adds to noise and privacy issues. And in the current D8, it's stated that the back car park is long lunch overflow only. Amplified music and PA system, indoor and outdoor, very audible from inside our home. Toilets, shipping containers, cool rooms, waste, etc., encroaching on boundary setbacks with full view from our home. All these points contribute to significant noise, lighting, privacy and security impacts. We are surrounded by intrusive operations the entirety of our home, from the front to the back of the property. Unless you live here day in, day out, you have no idea the scale of the issues we are experiencing. And it's a considerable toll on our lives, our health, and to date, it's cost us in the vicinity of $10,000 to oppose the DA.
If we just pause there, move for extension of time. Councillor Watton, seconded Councillor Hawkins. All those in favour? It's unanimous. So a further 1 minute.
Thank you. Just finishing off on the $10,000 to oppose the DA. We've also even been told by the owner, council staff and a councillor to move out. This is offensive in nature. And even if we do move, the problems we endured, they're obviously going to remain with the property. So we are opposed to the retrospective DA. Just make a statement about that retrospective there, including extended hours and larger events, and agree with the previous and current council report recommendations, which clearly states multiple aspects of non-compliance. This property just isn't big enough, unfortunately. It's not big enough for the scale of its operation. The establishment is unable to adhere basic business and operational requirements given the impacts that we see currently, yet the owner is wanting to further develop and intensify the site, which is already overdeveloped. Finally, the purpose of the LEP and the DCP is to meet the objectives of land use and minimise conflicts between land uses within the RU4 zone. We believe that in our situation, this has not protected us as intended. Appreciate everyone listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Smith, Councillor Watton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Savale. You mentioned at the top of your address there was an email or some correspondence from Rod Sindell from 2011.
That's correct, yep.
Could you just speak a little bit further to the content of that?
Yeah, I've actually got a copy of it, but I've got various correspondence. So Rod was, if anyone was not aware, was a senior planning assessment officer with Cessnock Council, very respected. We actually put in a submission in the early days against the additional deck that is actually currently there now. And he actually said, he advised at the time that he did not support the extension to the existing deck, and he considered it would increase the scale of the development to the point where it would result in functions being held on the premises and would have a detrimental impact to the amenity and adjoining rural residents. Since then, obviously, that deck did get installed. He was adamant about there would be traffic concerns just within intensification of the site, because it went from like a boutique sort of site, and obviously larger events. It was identified earlier that larger events probably would take place, and functions and things like that. Long story short, he was against it.
Okay, so time proves all. So what has fast forward 13 years done? Does it justify those initial concerns, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah, definitely, because we have experienced all the effects of non-compliance, current non-compliance, and non-approvals and operation without being approved. So all those things that I did list earlier, we're definitely affected by. Yep.
Yeah, sure. Well, it sounds like it. So just with regards to, you're saying councillors, and I think you said other staff had advised you just to move. So have other councillors and other staff actually come and visited your property?
Yes, we did. Fortunately, we did have a councillor that did come out when we reached out, and she more or less said same thing. Recommended that we probably move. Said oh shit, there's a bit of extension going on there. It's not real good, is it? And I said, she agreed that it wasn't a really good state. Advised very similar.
Okay. Final question, compliance. In terms of this particular DA, have you been approached, or have you approached council staff or should I say, have you approached council staff about issues that aren't in line with the actual DA, that are actually going against the DA, the provisions in that, and what's been some of the outcomes after that?
Yeah, definitely. We have reached out several times, and obviously there's a fair bit of history with this case. It's not just a one-off in the last 12 months. It's been going on for pretty much since around about 2013, 2014 times.
Okay. All right. No, thank you.
Councillor Olsen.
Nathan, thanks for those insights into what's happening out there. The current owner has been there how long?
I think working at the business probably around probably about 8 to 10 years potentially. Yeah, but owned it since 2021.
Oh, okay.
Roughly, I think. Yep.
Owned it since 21, but he was working there before, was it? Yeah.
Can I just say that's probably a question for the next speaker about what they've done and where they've worked, rather than I think you're straying a bit from
How do
his
you know I'm not
presentation.
going to ask another question that leads to that, man?
I'm
You
just
don't know a thing what I'm
suggesting
gonna
that
ask.
you're straying from his presentation, which the questions are meant to be about.
Yeah. Look, I have other questions. What's the current trading hours for the business, and are they abiding by that?
Yeah, no, the approved hours are not abided by.
Yeah. You don't know that. That's all right. That's all right. But you're saying there's late night events out there. Is this on any nights of the week or just on weekends?
There has been various multiple nighttime events. Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions. Please thank Mr. Smith for his presentation. Now I'd like to invite Matt Dillo forward to speak against the recommendation. Mr. Dillo, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, dear Mayor, councillors and council officers. So my name is Matthew Dillo. I'm the sole owner and director of Garden Wines, which was established in 1996, and the Deck Cafe, which was established in 2011, as well as the president of the local Lovedale Business Chamber of Commerce. With a dedicated 33 years in the hospitality sector, and the last 17 years has been devoted in the active involvement and ownership of the Hunter Valley's hospitality industry. With a deep commitment to contributing to the regional's tourism, economic growth, and constantly working with local schools, training and coaching high school students to school in the ever-growing hospitality sector. The challenges imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic prompted significant measures to adapt and preserve. With government grants and amended rules, we successfully weathered down the downturn in tourism, ensuring the sustainability operation of our business and the employment of over 50 staff, comprising of 15 full-time and 35 casual employees. During the pandemic, we were awarded by the Hunter Business Chamber of Commerce winner in the category of innovation and adaptability. And this followed on to represent New South Wales Australia-wide as an award as a finalist. To accommodate staff and customers through COVID-19 with social distancing, we implemented a juice bar, coffee bar, relocatable amenities and a kitchen. The developments have been an asset and have resulted in a more efficient run business. We've engaged in qualified consultants to prepare a number of reports and plans which have been submitted to council so that we can address the non-compliance. These reports have included BCA reports, structural engineering reports and disability access reports. In response to the evolving landscape, we seize the opportunity presented by the state government extension of trading hours in areas of operation for the hospitality sector. This allowed us to expand operations, hosting occasional evening events, providing a unique experience for local residents with travel limitations. The return to our original trading hours in March 2021 immediately forced the business to reduce staff numbers, as it has impacted in our ability to host such events as cooking classes, members' nights and other food and wine related events. Without extended trading hours approved, this will result in further staff reductions and there have been countless missed opportunities for collaboration with local businesses, and especially during the busy Christmas period and many other holiday periods, now over the past 24 months. As mentioned previously, we stress that we are not proposing to open every night. The hours proposed allow us flexibility on the days we might have an event after 6 p.m. Furthermore, these events are pre-booked and numbers limited and will only occur on an average of 60 evenings per year. Basically, one event per week.
Just pause there for a moment. So moving extension of time, Councillor Hawkins, seconded Councillor Painter. No debate, we'll put the item. All those in favour. Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burt, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter, Watton, Jerd and Saval. Those against, Councillor Olsen. I'll declare it carried. One further minute. Mr. Diller.
I've been running a very successful locals night 12 times a year on Sunday evenings since the start of my first business in the Hunter Valley in 2007. And these have always proved extremely popular, attracting an average of 100 locals each evening. In December, we hold 2 or 3 of these nights, and with the extra help of my staff, generosity of many local businesses donating prizes, and our guests who dig deep on the nights, we raise over $5,000 that goes directly to the Cessnock Community Church to feed the homeless, needy, and anyone in the community that has no family to celebrate Christmas Day with. This year, we actually raised $7,000. This work hasn't gone unnoticed over the years, and back in 2016, I received an Australia Day award from the Cessnock Mayor in recognition for my work with the community. In hospitality business, in the entire world, let alone the world-class Hunter Valley region, has been the hardest hit over the last 4 years, and my 2 businesses have struggled yet succeeded in business to keep operational, successful, and proven growth. I sincerely request your support in granting Garden Wines and the Deck Cafe the opportunity to address the outstanding matters so that we can give back to the community and run our business that we are very highly respected.
And there didn't.
I'm just about concluded.
So moved Councillor Hawkins, second Councillor Sander. No debate, we'll put that item for a further minute. Those in favour, Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burt, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter and Saval. Those against, Councillors Watton, Olsen and Jerd. I'll declare it carried. One further minute.
I sincerely request your support in granting Garden Wines and the Deck Cafe Lovedale the opportunity to address the outstanding matters so that we can give back to the community and run our business that we are highly respected for to the degree that we have worked so hard to get to over the many years of operation. Thank you for considering my application.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Dillo? Councillor Watton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation there, Mr. Dillo. Just with regards to some compliance issues that were raised by the previous speaker, there appears to be some compliance issues that have been raised. Could you clarify if they have been in fact raised with you, and if so, have you worked with council to remedy some of those compliance issues?
So there has been, we have put relocatable toilets and a relocatable kitchen. The kitchen is relocatable. We put that in during the pandemic. The reason for that was we only allowed so many staff in the kitchen at one time. So we quickly adapted to that and moved our staff abiding by the law, the federal government's or our New South Wales government laws to keep only a certain amount of staff in a different room. And then obviously through COVID, we know that how busy the region was. It proved undoubtedly we needed that area to adapt, and hence we've got the DA going for a DA for these extra extended areas.
Okay. And just with regards to all the reports that you said there was a disability plan produced, BCA, just with regards to traffic management, has there been any traffic management plans produced, or have you looked into producing plans like that to supplement your DA?
No, there hasn't, because we haven't updated any numbers. We're still doing the same numbers in the restaurant. The numbers of seated guests in the Deck Cafe Lovedale are still sitting at the same, if not less.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jerd.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. COVID was 2020, right? And a lot of businesses were closed. In particular, though, hospitality was still able to do takeaway meals. My industry, unfortunately, though, was completely shut, and actually no way of keeping money to actually come in, especially being a sole trader, it really screwed me over, right? We're now in 2024, 4 years on. Can you explain how you're still affected from COVID and why it's part of this DA?
This DA has been going on for 2.5 years. So there's been lots of things being brought up, and it's been taking a lot of time to get everything across the board.
Are you still affected via the COVID, like with your numbers?
No, well, business has moved forward since COVID. We are going on another downturn of interest rates and whatnot through business, but that's another issue, but we have to adapt to that, and that's what we do in business to make a business successful. So we need to look at other areas of how we can save money to support.
So your business would be affected if you didn't do this?
Sorry, I missed that question.
So if you didn't, this DA didn't pass, how much would that affect your business?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that once again?
That's okay, sorry. Sometimes like the question sounds good in my head and the way I put it out is not always the best. So if this DA tonight, right, was refused and you couldn't do your juice bar, would your business still survive?
Well, it's not just the juice bar, it's quite a few other things too, with the car parking, the relocatable kitchen, and then there's extra bathrooms that we put up. Then also we extended some seating to allow for social distancing, but then it's been put there and used. So it's just part of the aspect now that we've put money in towards, because we didn't know how long COVID-19 was going to last. And then we reopened in 2021, yet in the end of 2022, I took over the ownership. It was in the middle of the COVID pandemic that I bought the government business. When I took over and bought the biggest business of my entire life, and taking on a winery, also crushing 130 tonnes of grapes, we were only open for 3 months when I bought that business, and then we were closed down again for another further 2 months. And we also closed down for 2 weeks when I got COVID over a Christmas period. So we're moving forward from that and hoping to get a few things across the board here, so to work with council and work with everyone else.
Okay, then, yeah. So can the staff park somewhere else?
Can the staff park somewhere else?
Yep.
Well, we've got a parking where we've kept it along the side. We have tried to work with other measures of planting more trees and whatnot. We've been advised to just leave everything until we, not do anything until we get where we're going, but we're happy to work with any recommendations to try and make that more easier. We are on 20 acres, so there's plenty of parking that we can offer for staff to park. There's other things that will come into play with then if they've got to walk up on a rural property in dirt and mud 100 metres to work when it's raining or whatnot. But, if that's the way we need to do things, I'm happy to work with council and work with what we need to do to make it happen.
Okay, so you're happy to work with the residents.
Absolutely.
The last question, is there any other properties like yours in Lovedale that are so close to residents? Because I know a little bit more about the Colburn businesses. I know a little bit about some of the businesses on Lovedale Road because I grew up in Lovedale, so I know a lot of the wineries. But there is so many more than you actually realise. So is there others that are so close to residential like yours?
Absolutely. There's Jimmy Jones. There's also Tattlers that are very close to other locals. Our Tattlers is open 7 nights a week. They're allowed to open till 10 o'clock 5 nights a week and midnight on Friday and Saturday nights. So that's just been approved. We're not asking for anywhere near that. We're asking for 60 days a year. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a few complaints about the Tattlers one too. So we've got to look at that as well, as people that live out in a rural area do want, the area. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Matt, do we have any construction happening on that site that hasn't been approved by council?
Sorry,
Has there been any construction being done on that site without council approval?
Yes, and that is in our DA, and we will have seen those, and that was through the pandemic, and that was the only time it was done.
Right, so, next question relates to trading hours. What are your trading hours allowed?
8:30 till, the cafe is 8:30 till 3:30 from Monday to Friday, and 8 a.m. till 3:30 on Saturdays and Sundays. Actually, we take our last bookings at 2:30 in the afternoon.
So 3 p.m.'s closing time?
2:30's last bookings, and then by the time guests left, they usually leave by 3:30. We're finished and gone. The cafe's finished. Staff are never there after 4 o'clock from the cafe.
Why has there been complaints about noise and parties there late at night?
There's locals nights. If there is parties, we have had 3 staff Christmas parties over the last 3 years that I've had on the premises. They've been private parties, and they've been at the back of the property. Police have attended and basically come in, and there's been no further actions taken because they've all been finished before 11 o'clock, and there's been no records of any of wrongdoing.
What allows you to land helicopters on your land?
Sorry, I missed that.
What allows you to land helicopters on your land?
Sorry, land.
Helicopters on your property?
Helicopters on my property. Well, they very rarely land. I think last year we might have had about 10 that land, whether they're local businesses that land and come to the restaurant in the daytime. Obviously, there's no helicopters landing at night. Sometimes there's a group that comes from Branxton Airport and they do training flights, and they land at the front of the property, which is probably about 150 metres away from the neighbouring property. And we also they always call us to see if they're okay to land, to make sure there's no one in the front area where they do land. And they also make sure when they do say they're landing, we also make sure that they do come from the north direction, from the westerly direction, so they're not going over neighbours' properties and avoiding.
Just one more question on the conditions that's been up for refusal tonight, and the condition to relate to the RU4 primary production small lots, etc., and buffer zones and the vineyard district, and how it doesn't comply with boundary setbacks. How can you, if this was approved, how can you meet those guidelines?
How can we meet the guidelines? Sorry, can you repeat that one again, please?
Well, there's a lot of, you would have read the council report, and in the council report, the objectives, the reasons for refusal are the objectives of the RU4 primary production small lots. It's an overdevelopment of the site. The buffer zones for the residents that live locally, and it's in the vineyard district that the proposal does not comply with the site's boundary setback. So how, if we approved it, how can you meet those guidelines?
Well, there was talk, as I said, of planting trees and whatnot. We obviously can't move the building. The building was approved in 2011, the Deck Cafe, and the rule was only 50 metres from a neighbouring private property, and now it's moved to 100 metres from a neighbouring private property in 2013. So, I'm not sure how you're wording this. How can I move a building? Or
it doesn't comply. It doesn't comply. Under our guidelines, it doesn't comply. So if we approve it, we're not following our guidelines. Okay. So how do you make it comply?
Or we can move them because they're relocatable buildings, but we still need to operate.
Yeah. There's a lot of other issues as well as the RU4 primary production small lot zone. It's not compatible with the surrounding land use. It's not consistent with the character of the locality and will result in land use conflicts. So how do we as councillors change these conditions of consent to approve it? I can't see how I can support it.
Yeah, I don't think that's a question. I think it's more of a statement. So no further questions. Please thank Mr. Dillo for his presentation.
Thank you.
Now moving to deal with report PE2 2024. Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I move an alternate recommendation if I can, if that's okay? So I move that one it'll be on the screen. The council approve pursuant to section 4.16 and 4.17 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, development application number 8/2021/22318/1, subject to conditions as outlined in the documents that I'm tabling tonight and that have been also circulated prior to the meeting tonight. Number 2, this approval be publicly notified pursuant of section 2.22 and the clause 22 of Schedule 1 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, and 3, that council notify in writing the persons who made a submission with regard to the proposed development of council's decision.
Seconded. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I firstly want to say thank you to the speakers tonight and everybody that made a submission. There's certainly respect shown on all angles of a development such as this. And it's not the first, and it won't be the last type of application that we have come across council. This impacts residents, it impacts employment, it impacts livelihoods. I guess I note that this DA has been the subject of previous consideration by council and was the subject of submissions objecting to the proposal. The applicant has addressed council earlier tonight, and I also appreciate the submissions that have been tabled. The conditions of consent that I've tabled here tonight in this meeting, there's 44 of them. There are a number of concerns to the noise, the lighting, waste management and hours of operation. I think that these conditions of consent address these. There remains considerable amount of work for the applicant to undertake to satisfy the building requirements and to address the conditions of consent that have been tabled. And compliance is a big thing, and it's something that we should not ever sweep under the rug. Compliance is there for a reason, and it affects livelihoods in the short and long term. I think one of the hard parts is that we had some discussion earlier around COVID and the impacts of COVID. COVID was a big game changer for businesses because during that time, businesses were allowed to do things out of the ordinary. I'll give you one example quickly if I can. I had a lot of residents approach around the 24-hour Maccas at Curry. Those residents that live around there didn't expect there to be 24-hour traffic at the flick of the switch, but that's what COVID did. It allowed businesses to do different things. And then all of a sudden we start putting the brakes on, and these businesses have been thinking of new ways to grow their business. They're thinking of new ways that they can employ local people. And it makes it hard for businesses in the area that have been doing things for the last couple of years, and then the brakes are put on, and then they're told that they can't do it anymore, or residents in their right start complaining because it's been happening long term. This is, as I said, not the first, and I feel for the residents, I feel for businesses, and I feel for council, because I don't think this is going to be the last, and this is not the first one that I've had in the terms of council that I've had on or been on here. There's many businesses in the Fitzgibbon, Lovedale, around Hermitage, they're evolving because they have to. And I mentioned in council here before, the vineyards are no longer just about wine. They're about creating experiences. They're about having people come to our local area, because Cessnock's the gateway to something beautiful. Tourism is a huge thing in our local area, and these businesses have to diversify. They have to do something new. They have to grow. They have to add in a juice bar. They have to do these things because that's the way the business world has circled. I think that we need to take on board all of the submissions, and I think that the staff have done that through the process. And I think that looking at the submissions, the residents that have spoken to me directly, I think that these conditions of consent, the 44, that's a lot. If they're not adhered to, then the applicant can't proceed. Conditions of consent are serious. They have to be there. As said, you know, I do thank all of those that spoke and the previous meeting and those that did submissions. This is an attempt to balance the impact, I think, on local residents while supporting local businesses, and even more so supporting local people in our area to have jobs long term.
Councillor Olsen.
I just, two questions, if I may, Mayor. I'd like to ask Councillor Jackson why she hasn't declared an interest tonight when I see Facebook posts of her doing design work for Gardelman.
Councillor Olsen, it's highly disorderly for you to raise code of conduct matters in a public forum. It is not appropriate, and I would ask you to withdraw that comment and lodge any concerns about code of conduct matters through the formal channels.
Mayor, I am not saying anything about the code of conduct. What I'm trying to do is make Councillor Jackson aware that if the applicant finds out about this, that she's done work for, if the opposition has found out that she's done work for them, then they will go to use it as an land.
Councillor Olsen, I will refer you to clause 15.11D of the Code of Meeting Practice, which says a councillor commits an act of disorder if the councillor at a council meeting or a committee of the council insults, makes unfavourable personal remarks or imputes improper motives to any other council official or alleges a breach of the council's code of conduct. And as such, I would ask you under clause 15.12 of the Code of Conduct to retract and apologise without reservation for any statement that constitutes an act of disorder referred to in clause 15.11D and E. So, Councillor Olsen, I've asked you to retract and apologise without reservation for that statement.
I would like to apologise to Councillor Jackson for not declaring an interest. I didn't mean to upset her or anyone else.
Councillor Olsen, that is disorderly. I will ask you to simply retract and apologise for that.
I'm so sorry, Councillor Jackson.
And retract, and you wish to retract your statement.
I will retract that you done work for Gardelman, even though it's a fact.
Yeah. Next, Councillor Judd.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Applicant could not offer anything to fix the non-compliance, right, other than plant trees. Sorry, that's not addressing all the issues. I've been told so many times I can't go against the experts, and here the experts are saying that this is non-compliant. COVID was 2020. How many businesses changed and did other things to survive, right? There's no doubt that that was the case. But when asked how it affected business, it was shut for 3 months and 2 weeks at Christmas. I'm sure it was 2 weeks at Christmas. Sorry if I've got that wrong. My business was shut for 6 months as a sole trader, and I had no options to change my business model. And like others, I had to suck it up. We're in 2024, and we are really going to keep playing the COVID card. When asked if a DA wasn't approved, how would it affect business, I didn't get an answer. So how do I know if this is going to shut his business down? Because he didn't answer that. How do I know if it's going to improve it? Didn't answer that. So unfortunately, I just can't see how we can vote for something that doesn't tick any boxes and has had so many non-compliance issues.
Councillor Watton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Saval. This has been quite a long-standing issue, to say the least, when you hear things going back to around 2011, where senior staff then advised against certain structures being built, and here we find ourselves in 2024. I just want to say, first of all, I find it quite concerning that me as a first-term councillor, when hearing upon this issue, arranged to call this matter up to council to have it discussed and debated upon. I find it really concerning because it was on the track of being approved with no flags attached. I just want to mention that straight off the bat because that is a deep concern. First and foremost, I just want to thank our staff for doing such thorough work, or should I say secondly? Secondly, I want to thank our staff for doing such great work on the initial investigations and the findings in their report. I have to back the initial report and all the findings with it. To me, it's Sense and Sensibility. I understand the initial big building on the deck was built before a certain time, therefore it's within that threshold, that's fine. But we have so many other structures there that fail to satisfy any kind of requirements with regards to our environmental planning. So I back everything in the initial report, absolutely everything. And I think it's important, I just want to spend some time actually going through some of these points because sometimes you have to hear it and not just read it. So as Councillor Olsen alluded to before, the objectives of the RU4 primary production small lot zone in that development will not be compatible with the surrounding land uses nor consistent with the character of the locality and will result in land use conflict with adjoining rural residential land uses. It doesn't state where you put those things, it just states it's a conflict. The buffer zones, this may be able to be addressed. However, in that the proposal is likely to result in land use conflict with surrounding rural and residential land uses as a result of noise and lighting impacts. Chapter E.3, Vineyard District, in that the proposal does not comply with side boundary setbacks, which will generate an unacceptable level of noise and lighting impacts on adjoining properties and results in land use conflict. There's so much potential land conflict here. I just want to mention a couple more points that are mentioned here. The subject side is not, so point D in the original report and findings and recommendations, the subject site is not considered suitable for the development in relation to the likely amenity impacts on adjoining properties pursuant to section 4.15 1C of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. Now, speaking to the actual conditions that are being forwarded this afternoon, and they were forwarded to us about 4:30, 8 in the afternoon, and I had a chance to read it. I was worried that I wasn't going to actually make this meeting because I wanted to read through it thoroughly before I came, but priorities are priorities. But just some questions about this. In one hand, we're looking to reject, and it's outlined here in the findings here, reject this application pursuant to section 4.16 and 4.17. However, with the conditions of consent, we're looking to approve pursuant to section 4.16 and 4.17. This has a major red flag for me. I could see this very easily ending up in Land Environment Court. And as a council, we at all costs want to avoid this. I have concerns about compliance. There's a long-standing history of compliance matters here relating to this particular DA. What reasonable person thinks that there's going to be, clear sailing from here on in and that the applicant will actually adhere to these conditions of consent? I don't see it. I don't think any reasonable person can actually argue anything else. So I want to see council avoid court at all costs. It's a costly, expensive task. And I just want to close in saying, there's many business owners on this council. I'm one of them. And I'm a supporter of local business, but we have to abide by the rules. Rules are rules for a reason, to stop conflict. Thank you.
Councillor Olsen.
Thanks, Chairman. I just can't understand this council. We have had a lot of development applications come through here that have been up for approval where the residents didn't want them. And councillors have said in this council chamber, we can't go against the directors and the planners. They're the ones that make know all the rules and regulations. So unfortunately, we want to support the people, but we have to go with what the planners say. But here we have the planners saying no, and we're going to go against what the planners want, and for the developer, not the residents. Again, we're not supporting residents, we're supporting a developer. Now, I'm all for having jobs and everything and making sure people have their businesses able to operate, but I'm not here to make it someone's life that lives next door to them miserable. And for a councillor, I don't know which councillor it was, to go out there and tell them the best thing you can do is move, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. I just can't believe that. So I'm going to put up the amendment that the original recommendation be approved. I put that up because I can't sit here and honestly say this is good development. The owner has shown over the period of time that his operational hours are outside his hours. He's got helicopters landing on his property. He's got private functions on Saturday nights when it's a business residence and not a household residence. It's so many things that this doesn't work for me, and I just do not understand why any councillor would come in here tonight and not, after saying so many council times they say it, we've got to support the planners because they know the rules, you want to go against it. And as Councillor Watton said about the rules and regulations, one is to make sure we don't approve it because of these sections, but the other one's saying because of those sections. So, you know, like, for me, this isn't about jobs. This is about quality of life that people live out there and making sure we get this right. It doesn't meet the guidelines. It doesn't meet what the rules and regulations say for RU4, for the buffer zones, for everything else in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. But I really don't know why this is going past and taking so long tonight when it was clear cut that we should be supporting what the planners are saying here and supporting the residents, because the residents come first as far as I'm concerned.
So is there a seconder for Councillor Olsen's amendment, Councillor Watton? So we'll deal with the amendment first. So those in favour of Councillor Olsen's amendment, please raise your hand. So that is Councillors Watton, Olsen and Jerd. Those against the amendment, Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter and Savell. We'll now return to the motion. And so there's a right of reply on the original motion. Councillor Burke.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think that what Councillor Olsen has said is true, definitely in regards to, I've been one of those people in this term, the last term, have supported the staff's decisions. That's why, but that's for, I guess, for an approval or for a rejection, depending on the situation, though I'm comfortable in moving this tonight because there are 44 conditions of consent and every single one of them has to be ticked off. In those conditions of consent, there's no live music. Parking is in there in regards to minimising the headlights that would impact residents, patron numbers, access to the premises, landscaping of privacy screens, outdoor lighting, flood lighting to minimise, to make sure that these are not in direct line of neighbouring premises. These conditions of consent are pretty heavy in my way of thinking. In regards to the conditions of consent, they are there for both sides. These conditions of consent have been crafted based on concerns from local residents. And if the applicant, not the developer, but the applicant is able to meet these conditions of consent, then we are quite a fair way down the path of ticking off some of the concerns that residents have. In regards to Councillor Jurd's concerns around COVID, I don't think that it's COVID impacting the businesses now. I think that it's the rules that were implemented, that were allowed by the then government, that businesses adapted, but then they have found it hard to adapt back without taking away business, without taking away local jobs. And I think that's important. It's not COVID impacting the business, it's the regulations, the legislations, the temporary rules, the permanent rules that have really turned business upside down. And I think that that's a struggle, and that's why we're in this position with this development application. You know, I don't think there's anybody in here that don't support residents, and I don't think there's anybody in here that doesn't support business. The reason that I've tabled these consents, conditions of consent, is to try and support the balance of both sides, and if they're not met, then the development doesn't take place.
Councillor Watton, debate's closed.
Can I ask a couple of questions? Is that possible?
Ask a question. Yep.
Yeah, just, we're talking about in the conditions of consent, knocking down structures, demolishing, and it's all good to, I guess, pull things out and put things in the condition of consent. However, the proper checks and balances being put in place about, you know, things being assessed before that can actually happen. Also today, there's been no social impact assessments. There's been no...
Is there a question?
There is. Are we going to get those checks and balances in place before we do this? Because I think at the very least we should defer things.
So the question was, would these conditions...
I'll keep it to the first point. I don't feel like things have been properly assessed. I think it's pretty... Can we show proof that things have been assessed before we recommending these conditions of consent?
So, Director, I'm not quite clear on the question either. So is it around...
So in the 44 sections that have been listed, some of that's actually demolishing structures and moving them. However, have we actually performed proper assessments for that to actually occur? Because what if we can't? I don't know what these structures actually are. Is there asbestos? Do you know what I mean?
I think it's around the certification process. So you're asking if the conditions of consent are supported, what checks are there to make sure they happen?
Essentially, yeah, before we even
So it's
discuss it, because it's been brainstorming.
Yep. Yep, you're right.
Certainly those, sorry, the sound in here.
It's loud in here, yeah.
Yeah. He needs to get, there's BCA and construction code matters that need to be satisfied. The understanding as it's been presented to me is that with the nature of the buildings so close, then there are also ambulance facilities that will need to be provided, which is not shown. So that will need to be done as part of a CC. So pre any other works in use, those construction elements will need to be resolved, and that will either be done through a private certifier or if the application is made through council's certification team. So can it be comply? My understanding is yes, it can, but it's a matter for the applicant to propose the manners in which they do that and to provide the documentation with the construction certificate application for that to be assessed in detail at that point in time.
Should we defer then to get this?
That's, I was at the risk of sounding trite, it's a matter for the council. Those kind of issues being resolved at construction certificate stage is common for that kind of certificate application. Certainly we're dealing with a compliance issue here, but my understanding from the advice is that those can be resolved, but it's a matter for the applicant to decide on how he chooses to and the information he presents to do that. But in terms of council decision, I'll leave that to the council.
Okay. No further debate. We'll put the item. All those in favour of the motion, Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter and Savall. Those against, Councillors Watton, Olsen and Jerd. I'll declare it carried. We'll now move on to consideration and adoption of all reports by Englobo. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Recommendations that, having read and considered the reports in the agenda relating to items GMU 3 2024, the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee, PE 4 2024, Visit Economy Grants, CC 12 2024, the Ordinary Council meeting schedule of October 2024, CC 13 Complaints Handling Report, CC 14 Control Document Review 2023, CC 15 Minutes of the Strategic Property and Community Facilities Committee, CC 16 the tender for the supply and installation of road safety barriers, CC 17 2024 Investment Report February 2024, CC 18 Resolutions Tracking Report, WI 3 Evaluation of Tender T2024-03, WI 4 2024, the minutes of the local traffic committee meeting held on the 19th of February, that council adopt the recommendations as printed for those items.
Seconded, Councillor Burke. No debate. We'll put those items. All those in favour. It's unanimous. We'll now move on to NI 2 2024. Notice of intention to deal with matters in confidential section. Moved Councillor Hill, seconded Councillor Hawkins. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Moving on to Mayoral minutes. I'll move Mayoral minute MM4 2024. This is just in regards to notification from the National Australia Bank in regards to their branch closure in Cessnock, which they've proposed to occur on the 12th of June this year. It's disappointing to see these big banks take communities for granted. We know the impacts they'll have on elderly and disabled people, especially in accessing branches where they need the access to local services. And it's hard to question how decisions like this can be made in a community like ours that's expected to double in population in the next 20 years. So we're a growing community, and we have, I sort of ask myself of if they're closing branches in our areas, what chance do smaller rural communities have in keeping branches and services available? So it then makes me question the decisions and the way these large companies put profit before people. They had a $7 billion profit last year, which is a considerable amount by any stretch, and then to go and the next year start closing services is pretty disappointing. So I'll move that way. Speaking on that, Councillor Judd.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. I just got a quick question. I just got sent an article today from a resident saying, and I don't know if you might know how to find the information to see if it's the case, that the Australian government has signed a WE treaty to close all major banks and switch to fully cashless society.
Not aware of any.
Well, it's not a conspiracy. Look at this. The bank's closing. ANZ's already closed, and NAB is now closing. I mean, it's a good question to have. The ANZ's gone and NAB's going. And then we've got the digital identity bill that's in Parliament at the moment getting discussed. So I'm just curious if you knew anything about that.
Not aware of any of it, Councillor
awesome.
Judd.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you're actually sending off this letter, because I actually use the NAB and I do not like the fact that it might be closing in Cessnock. Thank you.
Councillor Moores.
Thank you, Mayor. I spoke to Rapicoli about this and my upset about it happening in the town. Saying we're supposed to be the second largest growing town in New South Wales. He tells me there's a petition in the office now. It was up to 2,685. And that was this morning when I went and seen him. So he is doing something about it, but obviously pretty disappointing for a company who just made $70 million clear profit last year. Thank you.
Councillor Painter.
Yeah, I'll just correct that figure, John, not 7 billion. So it's disappointing to me. I've banked with the NAB for over 20 years. I've already started moving my money across to another bank, and I urge all residents to do the same. If these big companies who make these massive profits can't look after the people who help them make them, I can't support that. So I'm grateful for the recommendation, and if our Honourable Minister can help retain banking services in our community, that would be great. I just can't believe that these large companies are taking the people for granted and not supporting them.
Councillor Watton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is just another case of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. There's record profits and they're shutting down banks. It's absolutely disgusting. The elderly, people with other barriers are finding it hard enough to do their banking. I'm finding it hard. I'm switching over from another major bank that shut their doors. You can use your imagination who that is, because I have to go into Maitland with cash, and it's hard enough using those silly touch screens for me. You know, this is just terrible. What good this will actually do, I don't know, because they're making record profits and, you know, money talks and so on walks. So very, very disappointing. I hope for the best outcome. I do support it, but I don't know where it's going to go.
Thank you. With no further debate, I'll put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Motions of urgency. Councillor Olsen.
Yes, Mayor, I've got one notice of motion of urgency. My motion of urgency is because of what I've seen on the Wollombi Road issue and the exhibition period. My motion is the Council, 1, extend the public exhibition period by 2 weeks, ending on the 17th of May 2024, and 2, organise 2 public meetings in that time as per the notice of motion from the meeting on the 21st of February 2024. Mayor,
So is that the end of the...
Can I explain why it's urgent? Is that we have a very short period of time with this only being on display for 7 weeks. If we don't do something now, this might not happen. And the point 4 of that notice of motion says the request the General Manager ensure all residents have the opportunity to access the same information regarding Wollombi Road Upgrade Project by holding multiple large-scale community information sessions for residents and businesses, and the Council has been invited to attend these sessions. And all that's been organised are 4 sessions. One is a digital town hall on Facebook, one's at a hotel at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning, one is in the Leagues Club on a Wednesday night at 6 o'clock for 2 hours, and one is a drop-in session at the library. This is not what was asked for in that notice of motion, so that's why I call it urgency.
It's my belief that this isn't an urgent motion. It doesn't meet the criteria, as there would be nothing to prevent you bringing this motion back to the next ordinary meeting, as it's well within the time frame of...
Point of order, Mayor. That is 4 weeks away, and we need to organise events a lot quicker than 2 weeks, because after a council meeting it takes a week for anything to happen. So that'll be 5 weeks, and we've already been on display for half a week. It's 5.5 weeks. If we need to extend it, it's not enough time, Mayor. By not allowing councillors...
We're not here to debate my ruling. I've made the ruling that it doesn't. So the motion of dissent in ruling from Councillor Olsen is motion seconded. Councillor Jerd. We'll put the motion of dissent. We are speaking on it.
Mayor, I'm allowed to speak on it. That's the way I put the motion up. This is about the people being given the opportunity the opportunity to be able to speak and hear and get the same message. All we're getting here in what has been put on display are drop-in sessions where people can go in and talk one-on-one. It's not what the notice of motion was put up by Councillor Moores, and if I would think that Councillor Moores would be very disappointed if we don't have these major meetings. They could be held in the multi-purpose centre, they could be held in the Lease Club, it could be somewhere where 2 or 3, 4, 500 people can turn up and get the same message. This drop-in sessions that you want to have is hiding. And why do you want to rush this through? Why are you scared that this is going to hurt your next election? Why don't we make it an election commitment? Why don't we bring it back and not do anything with it till after the election and make an election commitment from you, Mayor, to say this is what we'll do and that's what the independents will do. Why don't you do that, or you're scared to do that? Because you want to push this through too quickly without having clear debate and letting the public that's out here tonight and at home watching tonight have a chance to get the same information, and when questions are asked, people can hear those questions. So it's always the same information going to everyone, not one-on-one like a lot of councillors here like to do, and do one-on-one and then deny saying it. This is what we talk about being an open council. We do everything in the open, not hide behind closed doors. Having a digital town hall meeting, what a joke. What is that going to do? You know, all questions get vetted before they get put up on the screen. This is not what consultation is. Consultation is about getting the people involved, getting out there and doing it. By not allowing this to happen, you're stopping the community, and the community are up in arms about this whole issue. Why can't we wait 2 more weeks? What is the issue that we have to rush something through that's going to send this council broke? It is so expensive to do. We still haven't got the final figures. It's over 45 million and it's going up. It's gone up $11 million just by doing the plan. Why can't we get the people in, tell them what we're going to do? Be the man and stand up on the stage and talk in front of the people and cop the criticism or cop the applause. You get it both ways. And don't be scared of the people, because they're the people who vote for you. And if you're scared of them, you're obviously doing something wrong to them. So let's get this motion of urgency up tonight and debate it out tonight.
Councillor Olsen, in making my decision, I considered the time frame available, which extends it through to the 3rd of May currently. The next council meeting is the 17th of April, which is a number of weeks before that date, and then any extension would extend on past that should you wish to lodge a notice of motion at the next meeting. I don't believe it meets the criteria of an urgent motion, which is something that cannot wait to be dealt with until the next meeting. Therefore, I made my decision that it doesn't meet the criteria of a motion of urgency. We'll now put the motion. All those in favour of Councillor Olsen's motion of dissent? Councillor Watton, Olsen and Jerd. Those against? Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burt, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter and Saval. I'll declare it lost. Now move on to report PE3 2024. Councillor
Just very quickly, Mayor Saval, I believe my vote was incorrectly recorded there on that motion of dissent. If we just flick back up to the minuted record for the motion of dissent, I voted against the...
Okay, now moving on to report PE3 2024. Moving that way, Councillor Sander, you're putting forward an alternate resolution to that as part of the motion.
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Do you want to bring that up on the
screen? Yeah. On the screen? No, that wasn't it. No.
So the motion is on the screen.
Amendment, yes. The council endorses the Cessnock to Branxton public transport advocacy brochure with an amendment that both bus services extend to the township of Gruder as well.
Is that seconded, Councillor Hill? So speaking on that,
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Sander.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Certainly, the lack of public transport has been an impediment to our local community in employment options. Any transport system that can fix that void would be certainly much appreciated in our LGA, and the advocacy for the extended bus transport is been on this agenda for many, many months or many years. But if we can make something happen now, it'll be wonderful for all those young ones that don't have any transport, that can increase their opportunity to get employment through the Vineyard area, and certainly Branxton Gruder, extend the area so that they have that option to get some work without having to use their own vehicles.
Thank you, Councillor Judd.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to see this item on the agenda, actually, because it reminds me of Dan's nom, and it's finally going to happen. I remember being in the Hunter Valley Winery Committee when I was still on it and discussing Dan's nom about actually doing transport out there for the vineyard owners. Every one of the business owners in the vineyards were so excited for the public transport to kick off out there. One owner said he'd bought a car for his workers and that they had no way to get to work, and with the lack of overseas workers these days, he was struggling to get workers. So I'm really happy to see this, and not only will it support the vineyards, but it will help with all the people that live out Greta, Branxton and that to maybe get back into Cessnock as well. So great to see this. Thanks.
Councillor Watton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Saval. So this has been like a really tenuous issue. This is probably my litmus test for putting an idea through council, and then unfortunately you see it fall on its head. And that's nothing to do with council staff here. When I put the notice of motion forward originally for the job shuttle program, it was in response to obviously a major need in our community. We need transport. We've got many little hubs spread across a large, vast geographical area. So geography is the enemy. But when I put it through, and I was so impressed with the work that council staff put into that original report. It was well researched, it was thorough, and to see it get knocked on the head by seemingly a bureaucrat from all feedback that I've received somewhere, who shouldn't be named. I don't know who it is. I tried finding out. Even the state MP, when I asked the questions, he was perplexed as what I was. So all this being said, I'm happy. I'm happy to see something move forward. That's the main thing. If an idea goes forward and it gets knocked back for whatever reason, and then with a bit of persistence coming up with a different scenario, as long as the community wins, that's the main thing. That's what this is all about, and I'm glad to see council proactive with this matter and not just let it die. Couple of questions just with regards to the enclosure. So I just wanted to ask, and I didn't have a chance to send this through in time, but who does this actually go through to? This particular document, does it go through to MPs? Does it go through to private enterprise, rover coaches?
Do you want it to the manager, or do you, yeah, through to economic development manager?
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you for the question. The plan is to send this advocacy document to the member for Cessnock, New South Wales Government, and the New South Wales Government Transport Minister. So that'll be the first point, noting that the election's coming up soon, chance to advocate for those bus services, given that Transport for New South Wales are the body that we need to advocate to.
Okay, no worries. Well, glad to see it going ahead, like I said, and let's hope to see some transport happening for all our job seekers and just everyone in general. And I think, honestly, Greta's a great idea too. Can't forget Greta the Great. So, thank you.
Yeah. No further debate. We'll put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Moving on to report PE 5, 2024, moving that way. Councillor Hawkins, seconded. Councillor Grine. Speaking, Councillor Judd.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just got a quick question when it comes to the performance monitoring reporting. I heard on the radio the other week that New South Wales government was going towards AI to process DAs. Is that something we are doing?
Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jedd. We're involved in the steering committee with the Department of Planning in relation to the introduction of AI across their portal platform. We've actually got 2 representatives involved in that, so yes, we are.
Can I quickly ask you, while I've got you, a couple more questions? So does it actually help the performance? Does it speed up the performance? Does it make sure that we don't make any mistakes? Like, does it cost us any jobs? Like, you know, the list goes on.
We've had one initial meeting.
Mm-hmm.
There's some of the statements that have been made in relation to it. We'll have to watch and monitor that. Our view, and my personal view on the portal, is it hasn't necessarily delivered on many of the reforms that they were talking, so I'm cautious but pleased to be involved.
Okay. This might be a question for the Mayor. Would we be doing a briefing on that to find out exactly if we're doing it, how it involves, because it'd be really good to help us with our DA decision making?
I'm sure it's probably a question for the Director, because they would be doing the briefing.
Through you, Mayor. Can I take that on notice, and as it develops
sure.
further, once we've got more information, we can bring that back.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No further debate. Let's put the item. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Report CC 11, 2024. Councillor Hill is moving
An amendment, please.
with an amendment.
As well. I would just like to throw up and modify, yes, an amendment to alternate point 1, reading that Mayor Savelle be the voting delegate and Councillor Jackson, who has expressed an interest in going, a non-voting delegate to attend the Australian Local Government Association 2024 National General Assembly.
Yeah, is that seconded? Councillor Sander. So we've got, just wait for it to come. Yep. No debate. We'll put that item. All those in favour? Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grine, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter, Watton and Savelle. Those against? Councillor Olsen, Councillor Jerd. I'll declare it carried. Moving down to report BN3, 2024. Councillor Olsen.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Nick. Yeah, I have this motion, I'll read it out. It's just a couple of word changes in there. That the Mayor brings a report back to the next council meeting on the 17th of April with the following information. Who gave the Mayor the authority to commit council to supporting the Hunter Community Alliance? Why weren't councillors in the community informed of this decision? 3, what impact this will have on the operation of council, i.e. costs, staff, etc. 4, the benefits, if any, to council. 5, the motivation of another body of groups when we already have 3 levels of government. 6, what this group is trying to achieve in respect to the Cessnock LGA. And 7, any other relevant information that will help councillors understand who Hunter Community Alliance is.
So is that motion seconded? Councillor Judd.
I would not have known about this if I never got an email from the Hunter Community Alliance and inviting me to volunteer. Now, on the 3rd of November, you attended a meeting down there, Mayor, and you committed support for a regional community peak, a collaborative regional approach, New South Wales funding, further deliberations, and direct commitments of using council resources to promote ethical landlord options, joint pitch for CCC, working together such and such and such. Now, you've committed this council to this this group that I know nothing about. I don't know what other councillors know anything about it, but if I never got asked to volunteer, when would you have been going to tell this council that you committed this council to supporting this group? There's only been 2 councils supporting it, Newcastle and Cessnock. I don't know, I think one other council might have come on board now, but I'm not 100% sure of that, but they're all Labor councils. And I just don't know what you think that you have, what power you have as the mayor to do anything more than represent the council as the mayor, and you don't make decisions of commitment by yourself. It has to be done by the whole council. We can't commit to a group or any other thing. You're nothing special, you're only the mayor, and that means all you have to do is endorse what council commit to. Now, in this case, you've gone out and done it on your own back. It wasn't a council-invited function. No other councils, none of the councils I have spoken to were invited to this. Maybe the Labor councillors were, I don't know, but I wasn't invited to it. I know a few others weren't invited to it, and the majority of councillors here do not know anything about it, and the general public do not know anything about it. So I'm putting this up as a notice of motion because you wouldn't take it as a motion of urgency last meeting, and I just like to point out that as the mayor, you do not have the right to commit council to anything without the full council supporting it.
Sorry, Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment to this motion if I can. The first would be that council notes Cessnock City Council is not a member of the Hunter Community Alliance. And 2, that council thank the Hunter Community Alliance for their work and advocacy in our community and wish them well on their founding assembly.
So is the motion seconded, Councillor Sander?
Thank
so
you,
you can just go back just for to get it typed up. So,
sorry.
Yeah.
That council thank the HCA for their work and advocacy in our community and wish them well on their founding assembly. We okay, Mr Mayor, if I proceed now?
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you. I find it bizarre that this notice of motion comes forward because it wasn't accepted as a motion of urgency because the answer was no, we're not a member of the Hunter Community Alliance, and there was quite a few people in this.
Point of order from Councillor Austin.
Nowhere did I say we were a member of the committee. We're committed to the committee. Nowhere I've said we're a member.
Oh, you did last meeting.
Sorry?
It's not a point of order. Councillor Burke.
So I should clarify, last meeting the discussion was around membership, that this council had been signed up as a member.
This is the same motion I had back in February, no different, and no time have I said membership.
So, Councillor Burke has the floor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
That's not a point of order. That's not a point of order. It's
my
not a point of order.
understanding.
Councillor Olsen's moved a motion of dissent in the ruling that is not a point of order.
How can a councillor sit here and say something that is not correct? Membership is not what I have said at any time. It is a commitment, which is you have done here in black and white. You've done a commitment to this group. Either you're lying or they're lying. Someone is lying if you never committed to that there. Your photo's there, you're there saying it. Now, I have never said membership, so Councillor Burke is totally out of order and should not retract anything that says member and take it out of his amendment.
In speaking to Councillor, well, in speaking to addressing the point of order, it's not a point of order. Councillor Burke is speaking to his motion, which clearly speaks about noting that we're not a member of the Hunter Community Alliance and talks about their work in advocacy. So he's addressing his remarks to the motion in front of us, and I would like to hand him back the floor to continue his remarks. So we'll put that, the motion of dissent. So Councillor Olsen's moved the motion of dissent. Those in favour of that? Councillors Watton, Olsen and Jerd. Those against? Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grind, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter and Saval. I will declare it lost. Councillor Burke, you now have the floor again.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Echoing what I said before, this council is not a member, and the previous meeting there was questions within this chamber around the cost of membership to the Hunter Community Alliance. That is what my debate is focusing on. We are not a member of this organisation, and there are a lot of councillors in this chamber, I can't say all, but there's many of us that go to different civic events where I make a conscious decision whether I as a councillor support an event, a meeting, an organisation, and the Mayor is in his right to do that also. He is supporting a community group, and thankfully, I don't have it with me right now, but thankfully there was an email sent out from the Hunter Community Alliance clearing up the matter. But we sit in this chamber and hear over and over and over around the costs of things to council, and we're dealing with a notice of motion that didn't need to come to the table. It was clearly answered last week, or last month I should say, within the meeting, and any councillor, it has the right to attend. We are a governing body, and of course if there was costs involved or anything like that, or if we were signing up to a membership of an organisation, I think that the Mayor would bring that across the General Manager's desk or the Director of Corporate and Community Services. But for a Mayor or a councillor to put their backing behind an organisation, a group, a project, is in that person's right to do so. So coming in here and jumping up on the pedestal and saying they have no right to do that, they do. And if you want to read the code of practice for us councillors and what our do's and don'ts, you'll probably find the answers that you're looking for. So perhaps maybe we not bring notice of motions back when answers are already been given.
Councillor Judd.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. I was actually just having a little bit of a think then. So I feel like this is a bit of poor practice, right? And can put council into a bit of dispute. We get this email saying that we support it, and I look like a fool if I don't know anything about it. To say that we agree to it, So I'm not allowed to go out and say council supports something and gives full support without the support of council, without coming here and actually getting the full support from council. So I don't understand this. Also, we're supporting it via money, via what that's saying, which I'm not allowed to do. This is a simple matter that could have been a briefing or even an email or a phone call. I got a phone call, and I'm sure a lot of you's got a phone call when we were discussing the flood victims and opening up the tip.
Councillor Jerd has the floor.
I also got a phone call when we needed to discuss doing a donation for the fire victims. So I just don't understand why there's been no consultation talking about this. Question is, did we commit? Did council commit to this?
Did council commit to what?
This group.
Did you commit to the
Yeah.
The information in the report is council's not a member of the group. It's
Not a
clear
member.
where-
Did you say that that council will commit to this?
As was outlined by Councillor Burke, all councillors get invited to many different community organisations. I get invited to speak at community organisations and do so on a regular basis. And at that event, well, it was some time ago, I recall talking about advocacy in relation to social and affordable housing in our community, because that's a big need in our community and a big push that the organisation is focusing on. And so I've said I will commit to working with them to lobby the federal government around making sure we get more support through for social and affordable housing. And I stand by that.
Okay, so you committed to use the state and federal, right? Did you also commit then to use council resources?
I have outlined that I would stand by my decision of saying that I will commit to supporting them, and council resources are allocated within accordance of its operational plan. So all councillors support where the allocation of council resources go and what our priorities are. So one of our priorities recently has been discussing social and affordable housing.
Okay, so I've got a quick question. Could I go out to, let's just say, we'll talk about the EV cars because that's been a big topic, and say council is committed to putting EV stations in and we're going to use council resources to do it. Can I do that?
It would be a question you'd have to ask yourself, does that align with council's community strategic plan and council's operational plan?
I was pretty sure in our very start training that I was told I was not allowed to do that unless we discussed it and the council endorsed it.
If council's community strategic plan and operational plan talks about a direction council is going, then you are reaffirming a decision that council has already made.
But that's not a decision we already made. This is the thing. Like if I went out and said, oh, we are going to support the EVs, I'm not allowed to do it. Like, what is this committee? I don't know anything about it. I just feel like I look like a bit of a fool when they reach out and say, we look forward to seeing you there, and I have no idea what it is, what they do. Just saying.
Councillor Olsen.
So, we're not a member. Never been stated we were a member, but you were, Mayor, a question for you. You were invited to go down and speak at this meeting as the Mayor of Cessnock, is that correct?
Yes.
And when were you going to tell the council that you committed council to all these things that's in this letter here?
It's my belief that council's already committed to...
No, Mayor. Question was, when were you going to tell us about being committed to this group?
Councillor Olsen, this is not a debate of my answer. You've asked a question. You allow me to either answer the question, or if you don't want me to answer the question, then don't ask a question. That's how this works. So I've answered the question.
I've got another question. When were you going to tell all the council and the community that you committed Cessnock Council to the Hunter Community Alliance summary?
I've already answered the question, Councillor Olsen.
Haven't answered the question, Mayor.
I answered it in regards to my statements to Councillor Jerd.
Why is it everything so secret in this council? Why is it that some people know what's going on and others don't?
Councillor Olsen, you are personally attacking me and this organisation under the acts of disorder. You are insulting, making unfavourable personal remarks and imputing improper motives about another council official at this stage. It is highly disorderly, your action tonight, and I would ask you again to come to order.
Move on. Let's move on. We all know now that you committed council to this Hunter Regional Alliance, whatever it is, whatever it's going to do, whatever it's supposed to do. After all these other committees, we've got the Hunter Joint Council, we've got this, we got that, we've got all these committees, and what are they going to do for us? Can you tell me, in the notice of motion I've put up, can you tell me how this is going to benefit us, what it's going to cost us in the staff use time, anything where it's going to make a bigger difference than having 3 levels of government that run this country. And at the moment we're controlled by Labor, Labor, Labor. Maybe we just need to talk to Labor, 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 not to talk to these people. They're the ones that control the money, not these people. Maybe we need to talk to your mates and see what they can do for us. But here we are, wasting time, going out, sending you in the mayoral car driving down to Newcastle to speak down there at this meeting and commit this council to funding that we have nothing to know about, and you do not have the right, as the mayor, to commit this council to any spending like anyone else in this council. No councillor can do that. And you've done it. You've done it with this, and we wouldn't have found out if they didn't send it out an email to us. We would have never, ever known. So Secret Service is what it is all about, and I think we need to know, and we need to tell the people of Cessnock what this is about and why we've joined this, why you've committed this council to being part of their alliance group or whatever it is, and what they're trying to achieve. But hiding it behind closed doors and trying to sanction me because I bring it up in council, I think is totally wrong. And having councillors sitting here ridiculing me every night is your form of bullying and harassment, and you just get away with it. And you just get away with it because you have control, and I can put all the complaints I want in and don't get past the general manager. So I just think that this council is going downhill rapidly, and the more and more we do, and the longer this council goes on, the more Secret Service stuff we're seeing.
Councillor Grind.
Thank you, Mayor Saval. I really don't understand this, Nom. In the last 2 years, I've probably been invited to this group about half a dozen times. And what this group is, it's a non-political alliance. And, you know, some of these, you've got Hunter Renewal, you've got housing, you've got Catholic Diocese, you've got St Vincent de Paul. They're non-political group that are advocating for betterment for their communities. I mean, what's the problem with this group, and why are we not supporting them? Why are we not supporting them, is my question. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Saval. Just to double back again to Councillor Jurd's question, I'm not sure if all councillors have gone through the full length of the email that we received from the Hunter Community Alliance yesterday. It's sort of giving a bit of a brief of what they do. There's a section on the third page or so that covers what's happened in November and specifically relation to the event you attended. And it states there quite clearly that the discussion held around social and affordable housing were simply items where council's policy currently aligns with their values of the Hunter Community Alliance. So it's just sort of making clear that we have these policies in place that they are pushing for in our local community. And in regards to any councillor's ability to go out to a community event or to a local community group and commit support, it's something that I do around town, especially down in our ward. But when you go out and talk to these groups and you commit items and commit things to them to help better the community, if those items are in a currently adopted delivery program under council, money already assigned and aligned with our policies, then you are not committing additional funds or money that is not already in the books ready to be spent. You are simply supporting an already held position that has been voted on by the council for money and support to go to these community groups. And I don't know, I'm a little put off by some councillors' position to be against a group like this that's just trying to make the community a better place and to help those that need the assistance they can get.
No further debate. We'll put the item. We're now dealing with Councillor Burke's amendment. So we've got it was seconded. Councillor Sanders seconded it. So putting the Councillor Burke's amendment. Those in favour? Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burke, Grine, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter and Saval. Those against? Councillors Watton, Olsen and Jerd. The amendment now becomes the motion, so we'll now deal with that as the motion. So those in favour of that again is Councillors Jackson, Moores, Dunn, Burt, Grine, Sander, Hill, Hawkins, Painter and Saval. Those against, Councillors Watton, Olsen and Jerd. I will declare it carried. Councillors' reports. No councillors' reports. I'll now ask that someone to move that we go into confidential session. Move Councillor Sander, seconded Councillor Burke. All those in favour? Councillors Jackson, Moore, it's unanimous. So I'll ask that the gallery be cleared. We now return to report from the confidential session of the Ordinary Council meeting, where Council resolved the following. The Council supports Hunter Resource Recovery Pty Limited request to not invite tenders for Council's curbside recyclable collection and processing service and enter into a short-term contract with the current provider for a period of no longer than 3 years from 1 July 2025 due to extenuating circumstances as a result of unknown impacts of upcoming changes in legislations current low commodity prices, high operational costs and fluctuating markets in accordance with the exemption from tendering set out in section 55(3)(I) of the Local Government Act